And we are glad you're with us here on Open Line tonight. I'm Chuck Long, along with Kevin Kennedy, our expert, our legal expert, taking your questions, those legal questions. And I tell you what, we've had a broad range already of those questions, and Kevin is able to offer his advice, his expertise, and help so many people. Kevin, we're going right back to the lines right now. I think Larry is on the line with us. Larry, we're glad you're watching Open Line.
I'm still here.
Okay, what's your question for Kevin?
My question is, I have I guess a landlord rental situation. I'm receiving assistance, Section 8, but I actually had been paying my rent, and for whatever reason, it has not been applied to my account, and I was just served notice today.
Okay, Larry, what you need to do is to get your documentation together showing and proving that you have been paying that money. If you had canceled checks, you can go to the bank, get copies of them. It'll show where they were endorsed and they were placed into their account. So, and you're going to have to defend. Once someone sues you, we have mistakes all the times in the courtroom. That's why people hire lawyers. And the lawyer will call and say, guys, let me show you, y'all have made a mistake. Here's the proof that he's paid his. Then let's withdraw the lawsuit and move on. And normally, two rational men can do that. Now, if there's other issues, but you got to have a lawyer and you got to make an appearance. Once they serve you, you cannot ignore it. People say, well, that's just civil. No, it has ramifications, strong legal ramifications, and it will ultimately catch up with you somewhere. So take a proactive approach when you're served and go deal with it. You can hire a lawyer, let him try to knock it out, because it sounds to me like you're in the right.
All right, thanks for that call. We appreciate that, Larry. All right, let's go back to our lines right now. Teresa is on the line with us. Teresa, do you have a question for Kevin?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
I recently lost a family member, and the death certificate came back wrong. I have contacted the man that signed the death certificate, and he says he'll straighten it out. Do I need to get an attorney to cover this?
I would say within a reasonable amount of time, when you've talked to him, I'd like to pinpoint, sir, when can I expect that this corrected death certificate will be available? So you have to pressure him. Remember, what else we can always do is take the proactive approach and send him a letter. Dear Mr. So-and-so, this memorializes our conversation of March 23rd, wherein you told me that you were going to correct the death certificate because it was a mistake. If this is not our understanding, then please notify me within 24 hours. So you've built a little documentation. That's what he had said. And so what do they always say? The squeaky door gets the oil. Proactive and pursue it. Just because somebody said, I'm going to do it, you've got to make sure it gets done. And best wishes to you, Teresa. Thank you for your question.
All right, thank you so much. A lot of you calling in. If you do have one of those questions or comments, make sure you get on the line with us as soon as possible. 737-7587 is the number to call. We're going right back to our lines right now. Joe is on the line with us. Joe, we're glad that you're here on Open Line. What's your question for Kevin?
It's actually not a question.
Okay.
It has to do with real estate. My wife and I, many years back, bought some land. It was advertised as 5 acres. Had not been surveyed. We had it surveyed. It turned out to be 3.08 acres. So the surveyor went to all the neighboring properties, talked to them about it, and it was all agreed upon. So there was no problem. We knew what we were getting. We knew what we were paying for. And so it's best to have the survey done and
yes,
not come up later on with a property dispute. Thank you.
Exactly, Joe. And that's where we take the lesson from Kevin Kennedy, take a proactive approach. Now, guess what, Joe? What happens is I buy real estate and have for years. And one of my great friends said, Kevin, this is a great piece of property. It's 3 acres in a real prime area. And so he priced it, and I said, well, I'll take it, because I knew it was a great deal. Well, guess what? This was the last plot out of a gigantic farm. Had the farmhouse. So I took it, and one of my lawyers said, Kevin, we better survey that. It looked clear. We had a fence yard. Well, when they surveyed it, guess what? It was 1 acre It wasn't 3, and I was buying it for that. It was still a great deal for what I took it for. But what happens to you happens to everybody. So we had it surveyed. And what else? Why else do I have a survey? Because when they give me a deed, I want the new survey to be written on that legal description, not just this oak tree to the big rock to that oak tree, because people can cut the oak trees and the tornadoes take them out. Let's get it surveyed, so many feet south, so many feet north, and put the pins in. So great. Thank you for those comments, Joe. You helped a lot of people.
Absolutely. We do appreciate that call, Joe. All right. Linda is on the line with us. Linda, do you have a question or a comment for Kevin?
Brenda?
Brenda, I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead, Brenda.
Yes. I was wondering, in Rutherford County, I have heard that you have to state in your will whether or not a inventory is to be taken and or filed. And how would you state this in a will? And do you know if that's true, that you have to state it in a last will?
Well, the first thing is Rutherford County would be a county within the state. So you have to look at Tennessee Code Annotated. And what does the state law say in regards with that? When someone leaves property to several heirs, yes, an accounting is appropriate, because the judge is going to want to know who got the personal property, what is the value, and many times they leave it to their heirs, meaning there's 3 children. Every child has a right to a per stirpes share. What does that mean? We're going to divide it equally. So if we've got a gun collection, we need an inventory of the guns and their value. If we've got all kinds of glassware collection, it needs to be listed what they are and their value. So that's probably good standard. The executor or the administrator of that estate is in a fiduciary responsibility. So if anything comes into question, they have to have the responsibility to say, this is where the property is, this is what it's worth, and it's best to get an agreement from everyone. And if you've got a brother or sister that wants to sue, wants to take everything, doesn't want to cooperate, they may have to get their own lawyer, and you may have to get yours. One of the worst things is to divide everything, and then here we get hit with a lawsuit later. Wow. Well, the stuff I got really wasn't worth that much. Seek a lawyer's opinion, but I always take a safe approach, and the safe approach is document, photograph, make lists, get the values, and so you can make a reasonable presentation to the court and your attorneys. Thank you so much, Brenda.
All right, so thank you, Kevin. So as always, like you say, do your homework. That's what you got to do. All right, Brenda, we appreciate you calling in tonight. Stuart is on the line with us. Stuart, we're glad that you're watching Open Line. Do you have a question or a comment for Kevin?
Yes. I went through cancer in 16, and I was didn't ever file for disability, but I filed just this a couple months ago or whatever, and they said at that time that I would not have had enough work built up, and I didn't know whether I should try to get a lawyer to fight it or contest it. And I was still supposed to be under doctor's care, but I got dropped from my insurance and fell in that gray area in Tennessee, but the Medicare wasn't expanded, so I'm just trying to take care of stuff and myself, and didn't know whether, like I said, I should try to get a lawyer to get disability, or if that's an avenue I should try.
Okay, Stuart, first off, I'm sorry to hear about the diagnosis. One of the things that shocks me most about being a deacon at First Baptist Church, they never have a meeting that they don't have on the prayer list scores of people with cancer. So in this question, you're helping a lot of people, and thank you for asking the question. If you go back and you don't know the answer, you'll always kind of go back to my philosophies. Yes, Stuart, take a proactive approach. What does that really mean, Kevin? I would try to talk to some lawyers who specialize in Social Security benefits. Yes, because much of the law is interpreted, meaning that they will interpret it against you. What are some things that we can do proactive? You go to your doctor and you try to explain to your doctor that you're permanently and totally disabled. The doctor's notes will set in motion. If they say, this guy's not disabled, this guy is just making all this up, his cancer is going to be very minimum, he's just trying to get Social Security. That's where relationships matter. That's why it's important to be an honest person. Try not to exaggerate. Just tell it like it is and try to have a doctor you believe in. And quite frankly, you know, my mother had cancer, was a cancer survivor, and her doctors put in the documentation, and she was able to receive her Social Security benefits. So I'm telling, and just because one lawyer says no, I don't say give up. I keep pursuing. Winners never quit, and quitters never win. That's not law, but that's a philosophy that I believe in and I preach. And that's what I would do. Stuart, if you were my brother, let's go hit them again and not give in. Thank you. And again, we're very sorry to hear that you have the cancer.
All right, Stuart, thanks for calling in, and we do, like Kevin said, we send you our very best. All right, let's go to our lines right now, and once again, if you are just tuning in, you're watching Open Line, getting great legal advice from the legal expert, Kevin Kennedy from the Kennedy Law Firm. We're going back to the phone lines. Lydia is on the line with us. Lydia, we're glad you're watching Open Line. Do you have a question or a comment for Kevin?
A question, and it's not related to anything he's talked about. It's a tax question.
Go ahead.
Okay, Lydia.
Oh, okay. I have not received my third stimulus. I don't know what the deal is.
Well, Lydia, let me say this. The reports that we're getting, there's more than 1 million pieces of paper waiting to be opened at the offices of the IRS. So we're in a unique circumstance, never before confronted with this country. So that doesn't mean that it's not coming. It means that things are jammed up. So what do we do? Again, I'd be on the phone to the IRS. If you have a CPA that prepares your taxes, contact them. Let them, they have direct lines, email addresses, and let them make an inquiry. Perhaps some things that I'm sensitive to, did someone else intercept my stimulus? Has someone committed fraud? It happens every day. We hear it at the law firm all the time. And I hope and pray that you're not a victim of it, but you won't even know unless you try to pursue and find out. So again, I would try to call them. You know what everybody's telling me? Kevin, we call the IRS, we get a recorded statement. We don't get anywhere. And of course, you know, in my world, we always have people that assist us, whether we go to our accountants or whether we go to a CPA. I encourage you to pursue that and try to locate. Have they sent it? If they haven't, pin them down. Get a name. And you say, what is your name? What office are you out of? And try to send them back a letter. Then you've got documentation. And that advice goes whether they're on a tax inquiry about you or not. Best wishes to you. Thank you for calling.
All right, great advice as always, Kevin. Good information. So, Lydia, we are glad that you called in this evening, and I think that's going to help you. All right, we've got you on the line, but we are going to take a short break. We'll get back to those phone calls right after this. You're watching Open Line.